Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Ryan Smith, and I'm your host. Today's episode is a good one for anyone thinking about buying or selling a business in today's market. I'm sitting down with Steven Hanson from Transworld Business Advisors, the largest business brokerage firm in the U.S. Steven brings a rare and valuable perspective to this conversation. His background spans geology, executive leadership, and serving as a vice president at a major medical device company before transitioning into the world of business brokerage. That combination gives him a practical, operator-minded view of deals that most people simply don't have. In this episode, we unpack what's really happening in the market right now. You've probably heard the phrase silver tsunami used to describe the wave of baby boomers reaching retirement age and bringing businesses to market. While that is absolutely happening, Steven explains why the bigger story is actually on the side of deal demand. There are still far more qualified buyers than there are qualified businesses for sale, and that imbalance is shaping valuations, deal structures, and seller expectations. We also address one of the most common myths in the acquisition space. Steven offers a clear warning about expensive seminars and gurus, promising that you can buy a business with no money down. He explains why those structures rarely work in the real world and why sellers are not interested in 10-year IOUs, and what realistic deal terms actually look like when both sides want a successful outcome. If you're an acquisition entrepreneur, a business owner considering an exit, or someone trying to cut through the noise and understand how deals really get done, this conversation will ground you in reality. So let's get into it.
Get your entrepreneurial start smaller.
Start smaller.
Start with something that's maybe not quite so exciting, whatever, but it's a good solid business.
Or start saving some money.
Save some money. But maybe you buy that small pizza parlor down the street, whatever, and get going, learn about business, and then take it from there. And guess all of a sudden now you own 50 pizza parlors.
Steven, thanks for being on the podcast.
Hey, Ryan, it's a pleasure to be here today with you.
Wonderful. Well, I've known you for a long time, but I'm still looking forward to learning about your background, what you've done, and how you've gotten to be where you are today. So tell us a little bit about that.
Thanks so much, Ryan. We have known each other for a while. I was thinking about that the drive over here, going like, time goes by. Yeah. And it's been just great to get to know you, having spent time with you over the last, more than a decade. Yep. So it's great. A little bit about me. I'm Steven Hanson. I'm with Transworld Business Advisors. We're right here in San Diego. Transworld is the largest business brokerage firm in the country. Wow. We have over 260 offices now, over 1,000 agents just in the U.S. alone. And now I think we're in 16, maybe even 18 countries now. Wow. It's, so we're expanding all around the world. That gives us really a great benefit for our sellers and our buyers and the people we work with, because we have this global reach, but we're also local. So every office is locally owned. So my partner, Marshall Pollack, and I own our office here in the San Diego County. So you work with a local person, but we have the strength of a national organization.
Yeah, you have a lot of support.
We get a great amount of support from them. They're based out of Florida, and they're just wonderful to work with. They give us so much education. We had a great educational meeting this morning with the national office, and that's what separates us from so many other business brokers: education, training, staying on top of the current trends, so we can help our buyers and our sellers. Yeah.
Got it. So I know you didn't graduate high school and become a business broker, just like I didn't, and become a loan broker. So tell us about how you got from where you were in your young adulthood, growing up, obviously, and then to becoming a business broker.
Sure. I grew up in New England in the Boston area, and I got attracted to the sciences by a high school teacher of mine. And I went into college, and they said to me, what do you declare for your major? I said, I want to be a geologist. And they're like, we don't get a lot of people who want to be a geologist. I said, that's what I want to be. And,
okay.
I ended up getting a degree in geology. I practiced that for a while.
Wow.
And it was really exciting. I mean, I loved it. I learned so many things, in the sciences. But I kind of felt I was more cut out for business. So I went back to school, to graduate school, got an MBA, thinking I would work in the business side of geology, like with an oil company, a mining company, or whatever type of business. I got sidetracked during my my time as in graduate school, and I ended up getting into the implantable medical device field.
Wow.
We were making implantable heart pacemakers. That was
amazing.
So I ended up in a whole new career.
Wow.
And but I was working with engineers, I was working with doctors, and all scientifically trained. So my background in sciences and studying all things related to geology too, physics and biology and chemistry and stuff, just took me into a path that I could relate to how the people were talking, what they were talking about, and the science of helping people through medical devices. And so I was very fortunate.
What was your role in that?
So I started out, so here I come with my MBA, right?
That's right.
And I'm thinking, I come in and I'm a product manager in this marketing department. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm here to save the world. I'm going to be in marketing and do all this stuff. I come in, my boss takes me down the hall, and I meet this gentleman who's in charge of manufacturing. And I went, well, great to meet you. And he goes, you're going to spend the next month with him. I went, well, that's interesting. He goes, if you need to know about product management and product marketing, you need to know how the product's made. So you're working in the clean room. You're going to help build things for a month. Like, you're going to punch a clock.
Did that
just
sound
like
like
everybody
fun?
else? I was like, you're kidding me.
There you go.
This is like, really? So I got in there. I was given the dirtiest job in the back, and up through all different phases of how a pacemaker was built.
Wow.
How it was put together, all the quality things, all the documentation you needed to do to satisfy the FDA and the regulatory departments out there that control what we made. And, I look back at that and I go, that was the best thing they ever did for me. Because then when I went back into the marketing field and was talking with doctors or other people, the engineers, other people in marketing, I'd say, well, yeah, I know how it's made, and I could then help tie it together better. So it gave me a great foundation. At first, I thought that was just crazy, but it ended up being just a super, super thing to do. That job took me, Ryan, I was in Boston then. It took me, I got married. My wife and I moved to England. They transferred us over there for a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
Came back to Boston.
Not New England, Old England.
Yeah, Old England.
Old England. Fish and chips, Old England.
Fish and chips. Yeah,
not lobster.
Not lobster.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no baseball over there. I finally learned and understood the game of cricket. And then I came back.
I think that's another podcast. I still do not understand the game of cricket.
I wish I could tell you I was an authority on it. I am not, but it's baseball's a lot better.
There you go.
But came back to New England and then ended up in Texas and the Houston area for 10 years and worked with one of the top pacemaker companies in the world, which had a whole group of medical devices companies. We were making implantable heart valves, vascular grafts, implantable hips, knees, orthopedic products, and dental implants. We had a host of products.
Were you still in marketing this whole time?
So I was in marketing, and then I was transferring from marketing into sales.
Into sales,
and
okay.
Because I lived in England, I got into the international area of the business, and that career just grew and grew and grew for me. And I ended up being the vice president of international relations, actually the whole international department for the second largest heart pacemaker company in the world.
Wow, amazing!
That was really exciting.
And you were the vice president, right?
I was the vice president. I was 39 years old.
Oh, wow!
I thought I was big and sophisticated.
Well, you are. The reason I say that is in banks, everyone's a VP.
Everybody's a VP.
So someone calls me, hey, Ryan, I'm speaking to the VP. And I said, well, you're really just speaking to a VP. But you were the VP.
I was the VP for the international, And then I was offered a job to come out to California for the dental implant division. And that was like 32 years ago.
What was that job?
And so that was to be president of that division.
And how old were you then?
I was 39 and a half.
Oh my gosh.
So I was
so you were
less
the
than
president.
40. I was this little young whippersnapper.
President of that division at 39 and a half.
At 39 and a half.
That's quite an amazing accomplishment.
It was pretty cool.
That is cool.
I look back at it and I go like, wow, it seemed like, like I thought I was, I knew so much. And, it was like,
you did.
I was a global traveler. I'd built all this stuff for our pacemaker company. Mm-hmm. And this business was much smaller, and but it was a leader in its field. But it needed to expand, and we took it from, it was one of the top 5 companies. We took it to legitimately number 3 in the world.
Wow.
And we went from like 100 employees to over 1,500 employees. We had direct offices in over 10 countries. We were sold in over 60. And one of the things I learned along the way is how to buy things. So we bought product lines. We bought distribution channels. We bought a competitor, another dental implant company.
Oh, amazing. So you acquired another competitor. Amazing.
Yeah, that was a $132 million deal at the time.
Wow.
So that was a big one, in those days, dollars too.
I mean, that's big now.
Yeah, that's still a big deal, right?
That's still a big deal.
So I learned about acquisitions, and it was finally time I said, I'm done in the corporate world.
What age was that?
So, I'm going to date myself a little bit, right?
Okay.
So I was, I guess I was around 60 at the time. Not quite. No, I guess I have to, I'm going to back up. I was about 55. Yeah. 55.
Okay.
55. Yeah.
So you had this successful career.
Yeah.
You rose to the level of president, which very few do. Give us, what was your day-to-day like as a president?
As a president, you have to be ready to do everything. You're in charge. You need to see how all facets of the business is going. But one of the big ones is cash management, and the financials.
Yeah.
And the one thing that they don't teach you in school when you go through your MBA and all that, unless you happen to really focus on, is human resources, how to deal with people. And getting the most out of your people, how to keep people incentivized, when to know somebody might be in the wrong job.
Gotcha.
But they're really good. So let's get them on track and doing the right thing.
Okay.
And we were able to be very successful in attracting great talent and bringing people up and getting them excited about life. So one of the things we did when we were building a sales force, especially in the dental implant area, in the beginning, we said, we're going to go out and get people that understand the sciences, understand bone, because you're putting a product into bone. So orthopedics. So we were hiring orthopedic salespeople. Terrible. They just, we were getting the bottom of the barrel for the most part. They were the ones didn't quite make it. And so we said, we need just good salespeople. We'll teach them the medicine. Yeah. We'll teach them all that. So who can sell stuff, that can just is not afraid to walk through a door over and over again
and get rejected, but still build relationships and then have successful customers.
And one of those was office equipment, photocopiers.
Oh my gosh!
Can you imagine?
If you can sell a photocopier, you can sell anything.
You can sell anything, right?
Yep.
How many times do you get rejected walking in the door? But they have most of those companies, like Xerox used to have one of the best training programs in the world for sales.
Wow.
So we started hiring people mainly from the office equipment area. So they knew how to sell. They were great salespeople. We taught them the business. We taught them the industry, taught them medicine, all that stuff to go so that they became really good at what they knew. But it was also then for them, it was a career builder. It was pretty cool to be able to go to a party and say, hey, what do you do? It's like, I'm in the medical field. I sell dental implants and talk about that more than I sell Canon copiers. Nothing wrong with Canon copiers, but right. and that field, but it was something higher up the ladder for a lot of people. It built their prestige in life. They felt better about themselves, and they were really good at what they did. So kind of learning how to work with people was one of the biggest things I had to learn as a president, how to get people doing the right thing and get the most out of people and keep them happy. keep wanting them to stay and give them that extra effort.
Got it. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. So you're a business broker, as you've already stated, and you're with Transworld. And it is amazing how your background prepared you for this role. Because what you're doing is you're working with people who will be the president. They'll be the CEO. The buck will stop with them.
That's right.
And so if you can give us now, what traits did you learn and grow into in your former life that now prepares you to be a business broker, helping sellers sell their business and then working with buyers?
Sure. Well, I'll try. That's a lot of stuff there. But, along the way, so most people that are coming into business brokerage, it is a second career, maybe a third career like me, but typically not a first career. So one of the things that I can bring, and everybody on my team, my partner, Marshall, was an attorney, and he also worked in manufacturing, in a manufacturing company up in Canada where he originally came from. But everybody else in my team, second or third career, they all had their own businesses, or they worked for a major company and they had bottom line responsibility. So first, understanding finance, understanding how to read a balance sheet and an income statement. That's may sound very simple, but I walk in to talk to a lot of sellers, and I say, "Let's look at your financials," and they're like,
they freeze up.
Yeah.
What are those needed for?
Yeah.
Why do we need those?
Like, what's that? And then it's like, hey, let's take out the balance sheet.
Whoa, what is that?
They go, I know we make one of those, but I don't know what it is. So it's like, okay, so we had to sit there and we got to do a little training. A lot of them, sure, they know everything, but a vast majority really needs some help on understanding their financials, getting their books and records in order.
What size businesses do you work with?
Yeah, so one of the things that we do at Transworld is we work with all types of businesses and all sizes. So from Main Street, that little deli on the corner, up to very high-tech manufacturing distribution companies that are doing 30, 40, 50, $60 million in sales.
Got it.
We deal with all of them, everything in the middle.
Wonderful.
It's one of the things that separates us from many other business brokers who maybe just work on a niche. Nothing wrong with that, but we just happen to be a full-service organization that has a very broad group that we attract to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys have such a broad background and you're able to bring so much experience to the table when you're working with sellers. And so you had said that when you are introduced to sellers, that you go in, you assess the current state of their business. A lot of times that includes the financial statements. What are the other things that you see with the sellers?
So when we get past that financial thing, because you want to get an idea what's this business doing?
Yeah.
What's just whatever it is, you just want to know, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's really nice if it's making some money, right? And then you really start getting into, besides the type of industry and learning about that, but I'll go right back to the human side. Who does what? What do you do? Mr. or Mrs. Seller, what's your role in the business?
Yeah.
Oh, you're the face of the business. Every customer works with you. You do most of the work. Okay, that's very different than a seller that has developed a layer of management underneath them, and they're not necessarily the face of the business. So you got two different things to deal with, especially as the business gets larger. If the owner still remains basically the face of the business, let's call it an auto shop, for example, and it's Bob's Auto Shop. And Bob does everything. Right? He doesn't have 3 or 4 other, repair persons. Maybe somebody who does at the front. Yeah. But everybody just knows Bob. And when Bob goes away, and it's called Bob's Auto Shop, right?
Yeah.
So when Bob goes away, where do the customers go, right? So those people think about their exit, and maybe they rebrand that Bob's Auto Shop into San Diego Auto Shop.
Yeah.
And they have a person out front that gets to know the patients. I'm thinking about my days in medical field.
They're kind of like patients.
But they're kind of like patients.
The cars are for sure.
They're dealing with their clients, right?
Yeah.
And their customers. And so they build in that layer of management. Buyers are looking for that. They like to see depth. They like to see that the owner isn't doing everything because, well, in a really small business, that's going to happen. But as it gets larger, they like to see that there are more layers in the business, that the owner has stepped back a bit and is not necessarily the face of the business anymore.
Will you help them prepare? If, for example, let's say you meet them and they are the jack of all trades, they're doing everything. Will you say, hey, you know what? Let's season this for a year, but let's change your business model so that it's actually interesting to a buyer? Or will you say, hey, let's just work with what we have, but understand, and I'd like you to talk about this, but understand that your valuation might be different than what you think it should be. So can you answer that question and then also talk about the valuation?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things we do a valuation of the business. And for some sellers, it's like, well, I'm started my journey. I'm not sure, if I'm ready to sell now. Tell me about it. So we start talking about, well, here's what it might be worth today.
Got you.
If we did these things.
That's a great answer.
Right?
Yeah.
It could be up to here. Can't guarantee it, but we could maybe get it up higher.
Yeah.
Here are some steps to do along the way. Whether you do them with me or I can send to you to some other experts that can help you if you need guidance to get further along in your exit planning. So very, very important.
And then some people probably say, I'm tired. Can you do this? Let's sell now.
Yeah. And there are those that is like, you know what? I'm done. I'm ready. I got to get out of here. I got to now. Maybe it's a health issue with them or a family member, or for some other reason, it's really time and they got to go to market and they may not get the maximum value. So you package it up the best you can and knowing that, okay, yeah, maybe if they spent a year or more planning their exit, could have gotten more money, but for those circumstances, for what they need for their life at that time, it's the best thing for them. They need to get out.
They need to get out.
That's all right. We get that. So we do the best we can. We put the best face on it and off we go.
Talk about the best face. So I want to talk about how you guys prepare a confidential information memorandum.
So, there are
SIM for short.
The SIM, right?
SIM.
The SIM, a very important document. And when you start going about that, when we first started, they're all done by hand, and what they call a 3-column recast would do all that. Now we have really great software that does a lot of the work for us, dresses it up and puts it in a really nice package so that when we send it out to a buyer, it really looks nice and readable and very professional. But that's a very important part of the process, going through that recast, going through that valuation, but then putting that document together, that SIM, that gives a nice reflection on the business, describes it, both the soft side, Joe does this, Sally does this. It talks about the different people in the business, how long they've been in business, who their customer base is. Do they have concentration of sales? If they have, of all of their sales, if 80% of it's to one customer, buyers want to know that. That's one of the first questions they ask. So we get that up front, get it in the SIM, and then we get into the numbers. And we have some tools that we use now that really prepare the numbers in a way that very readable. Buyers like it, and also as important, when they come down to going to a bank to get a loan, they're all in a format that the bank understands. Yeah. And they can look at it and say, oh, I follow. This is great. Yeah. And it gives them all the information they need to make a decision.
Got it. So as a seller, should they pay for a valuation, or do you guys provide them with a good ballpark?
So, many sellers would love to just get a ballpark from us, but we really talk to a seller a lot about we want to do a broker opinion of value, and we will charge for that. Okay, that will be a living document that that's for them for their planning purposes, and maybe if they're not at that, maybe they will do that. They'll say, you know what, no, that's a little short from what I thought I'd get, you know?
Yeah.
So like, hey, let's talk about things we can implement to do over the next year to get that number up. So that's one really good tool for that, for that BOV, which turns into the SIM and the valuation of the business. So yeah, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, and the seller has to be very engaged to do that work. So yeah, we charge for it. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So the broker opinion of value. And when you're speaking with a seller, that's the biggest question, right? How much do you want to sell for? What do you want to walk away with? I call it the walkaway number. The
walkaway number. It's really tough when you go in as a broker and the seller says, I need this much. And it's like, okay, it's nice to know what you want. Now, can the business support that? Yeah. And it gets really tough when the business, you do your best to value it reasonably. Something that's going to sell somewhere in this range, or it should, right? Versus the need. And if there's a big gap between the need, meaning, they want to be able to buy whatever they want to buy or pay off bills or whatever it is, something for retirement, they have a need in mind. And sometimes there's a gap. And that's when either A, they got to pull back and do some more work to grow the business, and then come back 1 year, 2 years, 3 years later and do some active things to grow the business, or accept that they're not going to get that much money when they go to market.
Got it.
And when you get that big gap and they still go like, well, I don't want to wait. I want to go to business. We're $500,000 apart, for example, and the need versus the valuation. As a broker, that gets very difficult because you're going to go to market and it's not going to work at that need number. Yeah. Right. So sometimes we as a broker need to walk away, say, you know what? It's not time. It's not ready. I'm not the right broker for you. Or, let's work on something. Let's try to get that value up, because going to market with an unrealistic number, everybody is going to be unhappy. Broker's going to be unhappy because he's talked to so many buyers. Yeah. Buyers are going to be unhappy. The seller is going to be like, how come? Remember that conversation we had? I told you we're overpriced. So it's sometimes you have to say, you know what? We're not the right fit for you. Yeah. Good luck. Maybe you should try another broker. Yeah.
So as far as the market goes, and I love this segue. So we're talking about you as a business broker working with sellers, and we know that maybe in the history of lower middle market M&A, or what we would call Main Street M&A, mergers and acquisitions, that we are at a peak in the number of businesses that are trading. Baby boomers are aging out. The next generations are coming up, and they're buying these businesses. And we have technological advances that have happened over the last 30, 40 years from when many of these businesses were founded. So talk about the number of businesses, we talked about this yesterday, the number of businesses that are for sale, and we don't need the exact number, but then contrast that with the number of buyers that are out there right now.
Yeah.
And what's the tension between the buyers and the amount of businesses for sale?
Yeah. It's hard to put a number on the amount of business for sale. You have to discount the ones for sale by owner, because we really don't know where those are. Yeah. But for the the lower middle market down to Main Street, there are tens of thousands of businesses for sale.
Gotcha.
And just even within California, never mind nationwide, right? So you could probably put that in the hundreds of thousands. Yeah. If there's that many businesses for sale, just for fun, let's just call it 1 million. Yeah. Just for fun. Yeah. There are 5 million buyers.
5 million.
There's five times.
It seems like everyone's a buyer.
Or maybe more. There may be 10 times as many buyers.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's very competitive right now on the amount of buyers versus the amount of businesses on the market. Yeah. In the last couple of years, the silver tsunami is what they're calling it, as the baby boomers are retiring. There's been a little bit of a slowdown of some of those sellers coming to market. We're seeing more and more of it now as things are starting to kind of settle down in the economy, the tariffs, interest rates, and just the general country just kind of settling down and getting used to the new administration or whatever it is. People are like, okay, I'm finally ready to go to market.
So more people are coming to market now, maybe than over the last 6 months.
Than over the last 6 months, and definitely over the last year. Yeah.
Gotcha.
During the election time, everybody was kind of on hold. Just just going to wait. Going to wait it out. Regardless of who won, didn't matter. I'm just going to wait, And so we're seeing more activity now, but even with all that activity of more buyers coming to market, there's still a lot more sellers coming to market. There are a lot more buyers.
Yeah.
There are just a lot of buyers who, with the new generation out there, they really want to work for themselves. They don't want to work in big corporate America.
Yeah.
They do it for a while, or maybe they don't even enter it ever. And they want to be their own entrepreneur. They want to be a driver. They want to get out there and they want to build a business. So you can build a business from ground up, right? Or you could buy a business and have a nice platform.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about, there are all these kind of really exciting businesses in certain spaces, but there are a lot of boring businesses out there that make really good money. They don't sound real sexy or exciting, but they're a good, solid business. So for a first-time buyer, think a little bit more about that. Think a little bit more about, hey, I can get into the market with a business that might not be quite so, I'll just use the word sexy sounding, or, it's not revolutionary, but it's a good, solid business that's going to be there day in, day out for eternity, basically.
Yeah.
It's not, AI is not going to replace it. It's not going to be going away. And it's profitable. You have a nice base. And off of that, you learn to be a business person. You learn to be an entrepreneur. You learn to deal with banks, get an extra loan. You learn how to hire people, how to let people go, your payroll, all the facets of doing a business. And then you're ready for your next one, and your next one, and your next one. You could be that serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah. And you work with them, I work with them. So what I'd like you to do is talk about the different types of buyers, because my audience is going to range from private equity to platform companies to that one-off or individual searcher or acquisition entrepreneur, we call them. So talk about those different types of buyers in the marketplace for these businesses that are under 10 million enterprise value, and then the competition and what these people need to be ready for, what they need to be prepared for to successfully go from not knowing you to being a candidate to buy the business you've listed, and then successfully closing on that. How can they convince you they're the one?
So I got to be careful what I say on camera versus off camera. I can't put my hands up in the air and say, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what we see. So here are some things. I mentioned earlier that there are a lot more buyers out there than sellers at this time, especially for good, strong, profitable companies that have demonstrated over, let's say, 5-10 years that they have done really good business. They've got a good business trends. They've got a solid foundation, right? When those businesses go to market, as a broker, I know I'm going to get a lot of inquiries, okay? And, so it all kind of starts with we list the business. It's listed confidentially. You know what type of business it is, but you don't know the name. Gotcha. You don't know the street address. It's not like a house, right? So then the buyer comes to us. So let's just say it's that individual to start with. Right? We send them out an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. If they don't want to sign that, or they're starting to argue over every word and letter, in the NDA, it's sort of like, see you later. I'm on to the next one. It's already kind of contentious. So for a buyer, it's not that we want you to bend over and just do everything our way, but you got to remember there's a lot of people usually coming in and bombarding the broker.
How do you deal with that?
So it's tough. So you know what? In general, when a business comes to market and it's hot, if you're not kind of ready to just move along in the process, you get left behind. Yeah. And so get the NDA in, and then we ask you for a buyer profile. We want to know about you. We're not trying to pry. We're not the IRS. We're not the government. But we ask you questions for a reason. People go like, why are you asking me that? And it's like, well, I need to understand, can you get an SBA loan? Do you have collateral? Tell me a little bit about you. I don't need your bank account numbers. I don't want to know your Schwab number, but I need to understand what kind of cash you have. If you don't have a lot of cash, do you have somebody that you're going to partner up with? Maybe it's an uncle or your father or mother or whatever, family member, so that we understand how you could finance this business and how we could bring a buyer to you to get them an SBA loan. It's a long process, and the SBA the banks have a lot of requirements for those buyers, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they come in. We have the small, buyers, or that's not necessarily small, but the single buyers, right? It's probably a better word for it. So the more homework that they do, that they have, let's say a one-page PDF buyer profile on them. I am Susie. I'm Sam. This and that. This is what I'm looking at. This is my education. Here's my credentials. All this stuff. The more they could help me as a broker, or help any broker, to help, if they could differentiate themselves and show the broker right away, we're not wasting our time with somebody. So because we get inundated by buyers. We only have so much time in the day. So if they can do their homework up front, if they can go to a bank and get pre-qualified with an SBA bank, that's great. They've showed that they've done their homework and that they're coming prepared. So the more work that they do up front, the better off they are. And there are more and more of those buyers out there that are learning. They're, with the internet, with AI, with the different programs that are out there for buyers, that they attend workshops and stuff on learning how to buy a business. Those days where a lot of buyers would come in and they knew nothing, versus today, most buyers come in, good buyers, they're armed, they're ready, they're prepared.
Good.
They have answers to questions. They've already anticipated what the broker or the seller is going to ask them. And more importantly too, the bank. So they've done their homework. Yeah. And that makes the whole process a lot easier. Then we have, we go up the line and we get into, private equity, et cetera. And you know what? A lot of those, we're getting analysts who are AI is almost taking it over.
Oh,
so
really?
They see a business listing. It's really, anything that has a business listing with a EBITDA of $1 million or over. Yeah. The private equity, it's just click, 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 click. You go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning, and there's all these people there on your email, because they're using more and more AI to scrape the business listings out there, and you get an automatic reply.
And how do you interact with those?
So it's difficult, because you're usually working with a person who's an analyst in the beginning.
So not the actual person that's going to own the business.
Not the person who's going to own it, or the top people in that firm. You're talking to somebody who's crunching numbers, who's going to then prepare it for their boss to review.
Oh, wow. So they're just out fishing.
They're fishing. So you're on a fishing expedition.
Do you prefer that type of platform business or the actual individual?
I like the individual a lot more. There's a lot of work that goes along with those PE firms, and hey, there's a place for them all the time. But if we can shortcut it to, okay, you're going to do all your numbers and stuff. I get it. I understand it. But I really want to talk with the person in charge. I want to have a little bit of an understanding. What are you looking for in a business besides just some numbers?
Instead of just speaking with an analyst, it's not going to be at the table.
Because you could be spending a lot of time with them. Yeah. And then it goes up the chain, and it's just, well, we're not really interested in this. So I like to be able, now a lot of them been working with for many years, so I know them. I know what they're looking for.
Got you.
But for new ones, and they seem to be growing like crazy. There's more and more and more of them.
That's true.
So if they can come in, and besides the number crunching part, if they can, the good ones, they also have that little buyer profile, that PDF, that 1-page, 2-pager of here's our fund, here's our firm, this is what we're looking for. We buy and flip, we buy and hold. They give us a little bit of a background. We are into technology, we're into this, we're into that. We want the key people to stay in place and grow it. Or, we're going to bring our own person in, and they're going to go. if we have a little bit of an understanding of that particular buyer and what they like to do, we could tell whether it's going to be typically tell whether it's going to be a good match or not.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just say, well, I know that won't work with this business, or it will. So the more they can give us to help us, we're not there to be a barrier. We're there, we're an intermediary. We're there to work with both sides and bring them together. So the more each side gives us, we've got to know usually the seller because we represent them, right? When the buyer comes in, the more information they can provide to us, so we can say, is it a good fit? Is this worth it? Is it worth your time, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer? And so before I bring you to the seller, I don't want to waste their time either, right?
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I don't want to waste mine, but
no one wants, nobody wants to waste their time, right?
Want to bring it together, we want to make it work.
Yeah, bring it together for people, for the seller, for the buyer, for you, for the bank. So from a buyer's perspective, I love what you're telling them. Hey, come to us with a definition, a really defined target so that we know what you're looking for, and then we can marry you with what we have. Not as much anymore, but definitely a year or two ago, people would call me and they would say, I'm looking for this, this EBITDA, right?
Right.
So not this type of business or industry, but this amount of EBITDA. And I don't care what industry. And I say to them, well, so you're good in every industry? Well, not necessarily. Well, then why don't you pick an industry, right? Why don't you look at who you are, what you like to do, what gets you excited, but then also your gifts and talents.
Absolutely.
So that when you are the business owner in that industry, you're going to be able to, and these are buzzwords, right? So transition and stabilize the business.
Right. Absolutely. When we get that buyer who says, I'm just looking at the numbers. Oh, it's $1 million EBITDA, $500,000 EBITDA, whatever that number is. And that's what's attracted them.
Yeah.
They don't know they haven't even researched what the industry is. They don't know anything about it. They don't know how to run it. Oh, it's in the trades and you've never been in the trades before.
Yeah, that's hard.
So it's electrician, plumber, you
Licensing.
go down, carpenter, you go down there. There's licenses in those, right?
Yeah.
And they have no idea how those trades work other than they've had a plumber in their house. That's about it. And then all of a sudden they're going to run a plumbing business or some type of trade business. That's a problem.
That's a problem.
And they haven't done their homework. The other part of the problem is with, for example, going out to get a loan on your side, right? With the SBA lenders. So can you buy a business without having the license?
Yeah.
Right? How long will it take you to get the license? Most of these licenses aren't something that you can get overnight. You have to be very qualified. Like, for an electrician or a plumber, you have to be a journeyman for years before you can even apply for the license.
Yeah.
It's not something you can just book study and then take the test. You have to apply yourself in the trade as a journeyman for many, many, many years. So when it comes down to with SBA protocols, their SOPs, they go like, well, the seller, he has the licenses. Let's say it's a guy, he has all the licenses, but the bank says he can only stay on for a year, right? So it's like, oh, now who's going to hold the licenses because the buyer can't possibly get those licenses in a year. It may take many, many years. And so you have to go through that exercise with them, discussions with them to help them understand that, okay, you're going to get an RMO, all these other buzzwords in there,
which
and how that works with a bank.
That really doesn't. It doesn't
work too well, right?
I've had people try to go down that path, and it's really a dead end.
Yeah,
especially when the bank brings up the word guarantee.
Right.
RMOs don't want to guarantee a loan.
No, because they're sitting there, right? So the buyer comes in, they're going to take a loan. And let's just say for fun, it's $1 million loan. And now that RMO is going to get, or RME is going to guarantee it, the loan in case it defaults.
They're not going to do that.
They go like, no, sorry, I don't want to do that. And they also then have to have partial ownership of the business. And depending upon what state you're in, that could be a problem for a business broker to work in and to represent. Because if it's a sale of a business in California, for example, it has to be 100% of the shares of the business if it's a stock sale. So for business brokers. So there are a lot, it gets very, very cumbersome, very difficult. And, it's really great to have that conversation and steer them away from that, not in a negative way, but say, hey, now that we've talked about that, how about businesses in these sectors? Would this make more sense to you? Oh, thank you for the education. I didn't know anything about that. And now all of a sudden they're more interested in something else, a distribution company or whatever it is that's exciting, produces the numbers that they want for their income, so they can maintain their lifestyle. But it's a business that they can buy versus beating your head and going down a long, long journey to get rejected by the bank.
Yeah. So buyers out there, if they're going to make a connection with you to have the opportunity to buy a business that you've listed, again, they need to define who they are, what they're doing, where they've been, their experience, and define, okay, this is the type of business I want to buy. And then when that comes to you, they're more credible, right?
Absolutely.
And then that way they can start building that relationship with you. Because I hear a lot of buyers, they can't make a connection with a listing broker, and therefore they're never going to have the opportunity then to buy that business, and they get discouraged. And a lot of searchers out there, these individual buyers, they're searching for years now, right? Because they see a business, they can't get through to the business brokers. And like you said, right, it has a lot to do with how they come to the table. And they have to realize too that it's a long line, right? So it's not like they're the only buyer, and there might be other buyers out there that are quote unquote better. But at the same time, if they prove and show themselves to be credible, I tell people it's interesting how much pushback I get when I ask for a resume, and people feel like it's a badge of honor not to have one. And I say, hey, look, how do we know who you are? How do we know where you've been, what you've done? How do we know your experiences? Put together a resume or a personal profile, right? And then the personal financial statement. How much cash do you have? I get people who come to me and they have $5,000 in cash. And I feel like just saying, like, what are we doing here?
What are we doing? Yeah.
So the first step in adulthood is to prove that you can stack some cash, right?
That's right.
If you're going to run this multi-million-dollar operation that has cash coming in and out every single day, but you haven't stacked any cash, how are we going to have any credibility with the banks or with you, right?
And I have to bring that buyer to the seller. Right?
Yeah, how are you going to have credibility with the seller?
I bring them. I say, here's a buyer, and they say, well, tell me about him. Tell me about her.
Yeah.
And they go like, how much money do they have?
$5,000.
And I got to tell them something like $5,000 for their name.
They're like, what?
And they're going,
You're not bringing that to them.
What kind of broker are you?
You're not
what
bringing
doing?
that to them.
I thought you knew what you were doing.
You knew you were doing.
Right?
Yeah, that's your credibility.
Let me give you an example. Today, it happened today. One of my sellers called me, and they said, hey, I'm going to use a different name, but Johnny walked in my office today.
A buyer?
So the buyer has signed the NDA. So he knows the business.
And he literally walked in without an appointment?
Right. Without an appointment, walks in. He goes, I've been trying to get in touch with Steven, and he won't send me the financial package. So the seller called me, and he was mad at me. He was not really mad, but he was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I said, he walked in your business. I said, well, I got to have a little talk with him.
He's off the list.
And I said, so let me tell you about this person. Why did he not get the package? I said, remember we had that conversation that I qualify the best I can, the buyer? And one of the parts of it is, this business is selling for millions of dollars. So it's a large sale. I said, I need to know where the money's coming from. Does this guy have any money? And he sent me proof of funds, right? And it says right at the top of this statement that he sent to me that this bank account is frozen and is being held as collateral for another lien.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I said, "Can you explain that to me?" I said, "This money is not available.
Yeah,
it's tied up. It was somebody else's money, somebody he knows." And he was telling me, "Oh yeah, I've got this partner, and here's the bank account."
Yeah, they all have a partner.
And I'm going like, so I said, "No, explain this to me. Help me out here. Am I reading something wrong? And that's why you're not getting the numbers, because I'm still qualifying this person." And he went, "Oh, so you're looking out for me?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, next time don't let him in the door." I mean, he seems like such a nice guy. I said, he seems like a really nice guy. I talked to him on the phone. I talked to him yesterday. I'm trying to get him to straighten some of these things out before I give him all the information on your business. Because that's my responsibility too, to the seller, to not just willy-nilly send out all this very confidential information.
Sometimes the competitors,
somebody, right? You don't know who it is.
Yeah.
Right. And in today's, since the pandemic, we don't see each other as much. We do Zoom calls, a lot of phone calls, but it's not in person as much as it used to be. People don't want to get in the car and travel, see each other. They'd rather do as much of it they can, maybe through a Zoom call, whatever, before they have to actually meet in person.
And you don't know everyone's angle.
Right. So,
and you don't even know if you're talking to the right person. For example, you could have someone as a straw person.
Could be a straw person out there. Right.
And it could be a competitor. A competitor's like, you know what? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
My competition is for acquisition. I want to learn about them.
I'm going to get all this information on them.
I'm going to get all this information. Yeah. So you have to be cognizant of that.
So there are some brokers, and let me just put it the way we do it. You send in your NDA, you get your buyer profile, we review it, we talk with them, then we make a decision. Is it right? Is it to go to the next step and send them the SIM, the financial package? Yeah. You know what? And sometimes it's just not right, and we don't send it out.
Yeah, that's great that you do that for your clients.
Job. That's our job with our clients. We've got to represent our sellers, and sometimes it's not appropriate. So the other thing I wanted to come back to is on buyers, and you talked about the new buyers, right?
Yeah.
Those young guys out there. So young guys and gals, they're out there working for Tesla. They're working for big companies. Yep. They're doing really well, and they've decided, I think I want to be an entrepreneur. I want my own business. And they've gone to a seminar. There are a lot of these seminars out there now, weekend seminars or courses that you can sign up for $10,000 or whatever, and they'll teach you how to buy a business. And they'll tell them and teach them, you can buy a business for no money down. And technically it's true, right?
Oh my gosh.
Technically, you could get a seller note or whatever. SBA is going to want roughly 10% down, right? And they're teaching these young people, most of them are younger entrepreneurs, that will use the seller note to satisfy that down payment to the SBA. And you could come in with little to no money. Maybe a little bit, but not much, not the 10%. Technically, you can do that. Now you think about what we talked about earlier, the silver tsunami, right? So you've got baby boomers coming through who are selling. Let's call it 70 years old, and they're selling their business. Along comes a buyer. He goes, I want to buy it. Everything looks great, super person. Then we start talking numbers. He goes, I want you to take a seller note out. Let's say it's going to sell for $1 million.
For 10 years.
For 10% down, right? And it's on full standby, right?
Yeah, for 10 years.
So they can't get $1, the seller, till year 11, right?
That's right.
So
for that note,
and that's a 70-year-old person.
Yeah.
Right? So now they're not going to start getting paid for that, at least that portion of the seller note till they're 81.
Yeah, that's not happening.
How's that going to work?
Yeah, that's not happening.
You have to have money. They have a good long life. You got to have some money. You got to be realistic. And that goes back to what I talked about earlier about getting started, right? For that buyer, okay, you want to buy a business to replace the $200,000 income you're getting with benefits from Google. You want to buy a business, then it's got to be doing over $1 million in EBITDA to afford that. And you don't have the money, but you want to be an entrepreneur. So get your entrepreneurial start. Start smaller.
Start smaller.
Start with something that's maybe not quite so exciting, whatever, but it's a good solid business.
Or start saving some money.
And save some money. but maybe you buy that small pizza parlor down the street, whatever, and get going, learn about business, and then take it from there. And guess all of a sudden now you own 50 pizza parlors.
Yep.
And you own the market in your neighborhood.
Yeah,
Who knows?
There's different ways.
Yeah, different ways of doing it.
Yeah, but like you said, there are a lot of these accelerator platforms out there right now, and they're charging money to teach people how to buy businesses who they're either not qualified from a financial perspective, so they haven't really saved money, or what I see a lot too are those who are financially qualified. But not everybody's a business owner. Not everybody's an entrepreneur. Not everybody is made to work a lot on every aspect of a business, right? So a lot of these people, like you said, right, they go to work and then they leave. And when they leave, they're off work. So as a business owner, entrepreneur, when you leave, you haven't really left. It doesn't matter where you are. And so you have these accelerators who are selling a dream. Again, buy a business with no money down.
Right.
That's not happening.
That's right.
The SBA, we joke about it now, but the SBA was one way for 50, 60 years. And then for the last 18 months, prior to the new administration, there were all of these innovations in the SBA lending product. And now all those innovations are gone, but people are still operating under a lot of those progressive policies that have now been wiped off.
They're gone.
They're
kind
gone.
Of back to pre-COVID SOPs, right?
Which is actually better, right? Yeah. Because we don't want people getting loans and then defaulting or failing.
Right.
That's one of the questions I ask. So people come to me and the first thing they want to know is, am I qualified? And I said, okay, let me look at everything. I go, you're qualified, but let me ask you this question. Are you ready? Because the loan process is one thing, but at some point you're going to get the keys. Are you ready to drive? Are you ready for the power to be in the driver's seat for a business? And I also explain to people that the process might seem slow, but when revenue stops coming in and you can't pay your bills, that seems like it's coming fast. Especially when the bills come, because the bills don't stop coming. Your SBA loan payment doesn't stop coming, right?
That's right.
And so it starts to come at you really fast, where buyers sometimes, I want to speed up the process, I want to do this, I want to do that. And it's like, well, you know what? Hey, let's make sure this is the right thing. And with these accelerators, the fear that I have is they're selling something to people and they're making money, but only a small fraction of those people will actually execute. And then they come to you and you have to tell them you're not even getting a seat at the table. And they're saying to you, well, so I went to this seminar and I was told that I could buy this without this. And they have I have investors.
I have investors, right?
Oh, you have investors.
Well, hey, bring them on.
Who are they?
Get them on the phone with me.
Let me see their PFS. Let me see their personal financial statement. Oh, I haven't really collected that yet. So there's this caricature of a dream that is being sold out there today to capitalize on this silver tsunami that is really just the business. So I tell people, if someone like that charges you, their business isn't to prepare you to own a business. Their business is to collect the money for the purpose of what they're telling you is to prepare to own a business. But really, they're just in the money collection business.
They are out there. Absolutely. Yeah. And you can see the disappointment then on those people's faces who took those seminars, when it's like, I've been trying now for a year.
Years
or
sometimes.
more, years, and it's not working. And also they're getting taught in a lot of those seminars, you don't need a business broker. Don't go out. We're going to go off and target.
Just call businesses.
Just call them.
Cold call them. They call that proprietary business search.
Yeah. And the business owner is getting these calls from. It's one thing if someone like a business broker is calling them, who's a professional, who's been trained on, do you want to sell your business? Let's talk about it and go through the whole process we talked about earlier in this podcast. But when it's like this young buyer who's coming in because he has this, I've been trained to do this. I've been told this will work. And the sellers are going, go away, leave me alone. Right. Yeah. And then who protects the seller?
Yeah. Nobody.
Right. The seller doesn't know what they're doing either. So now it's not that for us to just make money. part of our job is to make sure things work well and everything's done right legally, that everybody's protected, both on the buyer side and the seller side. Yep. The documentation's done right. You use attorneys, use escrow. You make sure everything is done so that the best possible outcome can happen.
Yeah, and the value, because the sellers, they don't know, typically they don't have any idea how their business is going to be valued. And if these buyers go to that type of accelerator seminar, they're actually equipped, right, with more information on how to value a business, even though they're not valuation experts and they're not going to do a BOV like you, but they can whisper in that seller's ear. And if that seller's not adequately represented, then they can be fleeced by these buyers.
Absolutely. Typically business brokers, we work with sellers and then we find buyers. So right now I happen to have, it's the first time I've ever done it. I'm actually representing a buyer. So I was introduced to this buyer by a private equity person who it was a friend. He said he wants to buy this business. So he already knew the business. He already spoken to the owner, and they were like, "Yeah, I want to sell it." And they'd had a long discussion for like 6 months, and then nothing was happening. They couldn't get past go, right? And so I get in touch with the buyer just through a friendship. And we have a conversation. And I said, well, he goes, I want to know if it's, can you help me with the valuation of it? I said, yeah, I could do that. If we start talking about the steps. And he's like, I want to retain you. and I said, okay, well, we worked out a fee schedule. And then he starts talking to the seller, and the seller's going, what do you have a business broker there for? I don't want this person in the middle. We're just you and I talking. So then I meet her, I get introduced to her. We start going through the process. We finally get all these pieces that they couldn't get assembled. That's my job. I know how to do it, right? Together. Yep. Accepted an offer. They're moving forward. We're in due diligence, all that stuff.
Nice.
She called up the buyer the other day and said, she said, now I know why you hired Steven. He goes, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but a lot of other brokers could do that same thing. But it's we bring a value to the business, and the seller now can say like, oh my gosh, this would never have happened. I wouldn't be getting my dreams if it wasn't for having a professional intermediary in the process.
Yeah, that's great.
That's what we're there for. So we ask all those questions to the seller and the buyer. We ask for a reason. Not just because we're nosy.
Yeah, and that's what moves it forward.
It helps drive the business, drive the process, drive the transaction, and helps us identify potential problem areas earlier than later, right?
Yeah.
You really don't want to have them later. You want to, if there's a problem, let's get it on the table right away.
That's right. Bring it to the surface now.
Get it now, maybe before we get to especially before we get to the bank.
Yeah.
We get halfway through, 2/3 of the way through the SBA loan process,
and find something
and then
out.
someone says they SBA sends them a disclosure form. It says on there, have you ever had a felony?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, watch out. You need to know about that ahead of time.
Yeah.
Can you get a loan with a felony? You can. It depends on what happened, right? The circumstances.
Yeah.
But let's get that on the table up front.
Yep.
Let's see if we can deal with it, make sure everything is cleared up, and we can take care of it, get you that loan, get you that business, et cetera. That's just one little example of why we ask all these questions and ask for buyer disclosures and sellers disclosures, because we don't want to be fooled later on that like, oh, I forgot to ask that question.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, right?
Like, ooh. And
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So everyone wants to understand that the finish line is accessible.
Yeah.
Everyone can get there.
And with the seller and the buyer, okay, they're new to that deal. You may have been working with that seller for a year, right? And then now we finally get to a transaction. They've forgotten about all the other work you did, all the other buyers that came in that didn't work out, or all the other work you did over the year to get to where you are. And now we're working on just that one deal. But all those hours we put in earlier, all those days, all that stuff, people tend to forget about it because it wasn't part of their life. It was mine.
Yeah. That's what you guys do. You guys put in a lot of work. And unlike real estate, which, there's comps, there are a lot of similarities, right? From one office building to the next. There's some differences, but they're easily observable. Neighborhoods, architectural style, parking spaces, et cetera,
right.
Ingress, egress, those are pretty simple, right? But every business is its own labyrinth of left and right turns and dead ends. And they did this right, they did this wrong. And when someone's buying a business, they want to have all of that, like you said, brought to the surface so they can make an educated decision. So
absolutely.
Thanks for walking us through that, your background, what prepared you for being a business broker. And what I'd like to do now is we're going to wrap this up is talk about the activities you're getting from sellers. What do you think 2026 is going to look like?
Oh, hey, what a great way to end this. First of all, it's been a pleasure being here today with you. It's kind of fun, just talking away about the industry and what's happening out there. So, I'm bullish on 26.
Love it. Let's go.
I really am. I think that 26, people are finding, they're dusting themselves off. They're getting ready for the year. This time of year is usually quiet. It's when we can actually kind of like, do some goal setting, get some new files, get those files tucked away, get some new files ready and all that kind of stuff. And, do some quiet time work and not without the phone.
But not now.
I tell you, my phone and email is burning up.
I love it.
And on both sides,
that's
buyer
such good
side
news.
and seller side. So
amazing.
I'm bullish on it. I think it's going to be a really strong year. And I think right from Main Street, right up, it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's a great
looking
word.
Forward to it.
Positive, exciting, great 2026. So everyone enjoy the holidays, the new year. And then you heard it here first. Steven Hanson, Transworld Business Advisors, business broker extraordinaire. It's going to be a great 2026.
Ryan, think SBA all the way. Right? Good to see you all.
That's a t-shirt. Think SBA all the way.
There you go.
I love
a new one for you, right? To a great holiday season.
Thank you,
and to
Steven.
a fantastic new year.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Best to you and your family. Take care.
You too.